Years ago, I was a registered dietitian working at a Lifetime Fitness with the dreams and the aspirations of starting a business. And I ended up charging up my credit card, using all the money I had and using the credit card for the rest, flying out to Chino Hills, California to meet with my business coach and my mentor. I've worked with the same mentor for years. I've mentioned him on numerous videos, podcasts, social media content, and we were able to create a lot of success together over multiple businesses. 21 different countries, thousands of customers, 258 units of rental property real estate that we own today. So that's what we're doing here. My mentor, Bedros Keuilian, we're at his HQ office here in Chino Hills, California, Fit Body Bootcamp. Let's go have a conversation with him. Let me get him to give me some of the top lessons that I've learned from him over the years so we can help you in your entrepreneurial journey. Let's go do the interview. All right, man. So appreciate you being here. Appreciate being in your office and your studio here. So what we're going to do today, I took top lessons you've taught me throughout the years. I haven't told you which ones they are, and there's a lot of years of lessons. But I figured what more of a valuable video can I make for my audience and all these lessons I've learned from you to get you to teach that wisdom to them. And first off, man, just want to start off with gratitude. I don't know where I would be had I not all those years ago charged up that credit card. Like Chino Hills is almost like a pilgrimage. Being in Michigan, I feel like, man, if I didn't do this, I'd still be stuck in Michigan, maybe owning a couple of gyms. And that's where I want to start with. When I first hired you, I was 26 or 27, charged up my
credit. How many years ago was that?
I always kind of get it a little incorrect. I think I was 26, either turning 27 or I just turned 27.
Yeah.
So I'm 34 now. So was that like 7 years?
Yeah. 7 years I've been coaching you.
Yeah.
Your audience needs to know that if you waited till you were ready, you wouldn't have charged up your credit cards. Yeah. But here we are 7 years later, you've transitioned out of one business and you've got apartments and you've got assets and you've got a real estate business and you and your wife are thriving. It's not a byproduct of luck. It's a byproduct of your commitment to the version of the man that you want to be.
Appreciate that, man. And that's where it all started. So I hired you originally, probably don't remember, but I was like, dude, I want to own a couple gyms. Mm-hmm. I see you've obviously built gyms. I don't know anything. I was working at Lifetime Fitness, not selling gym memberships.
Right.
I was selling nutrition.
Right.
I'm like, man, dude,
I keep getting that wrong every time I tell your story.
People are going to think I'm such a bad dietitian that he couldn't even sell the nutrition. He had to sell the gym memberships. I was a good dietitian. I'm like, I'm going to want to open these gyms.
Yeah.
I just need your help. Maybe want to own 1 or 2 gyms. I'm going to be the dietitian. I'm going to hire personal trainers.
Yeah.
One of the first things you said to me, this was in your old office, it wasn't even here. You said, I don't know if you should do that. Yeah. You said, this internet-based coaching is starting to really take off. You're like, we just left the ebook era where we could sell ebooks, but now we're selling coaching and services online. Yeah. And I still get like goosebumps when I say it, but you were like, I think you should travel the world. I think the internet should be your business. He's like, you don't need a physical office. Yeah. You said Facebook can be your office. Instagram can be your office. YouTube, which we're filming this for, where you go on, flip on the lights, and that's your office. And I was just like blown away because no one in my area thought about that. Like if you start a business in Michigan, it's like I go rent an office space, get my clients there or whatever. And that then led to thousands of customers, 21 different countries, millions of dollars in that first business. How did you know to see around the corner of like where the industry was going? Like you said, it used to be selling ebooks and it was selling services, and then that ended up booming. So I was stuck thinking small, thinking in a physical office. Why do entrepreneurs limit themselves by thinking small?
We limit ourselves by thinking small, not because we have small minds, but because we're around small-minded people. You do what people around you have done. And so if the most successful person around you is some guy that owns a brick and mortar business who might have, let's say, a location or 2 in your town, and he's the bigwig, you're like, well, that's the barometer I'm going to measure myself up against, right? And if I do the math, I think that was around 2017 when you started working with me. And because remember, in 2020 is when online coaching really blew up, right? Because the pandemic happened and COVID, and so people weren't training in gyms. All these coaches, trainers, whatever, went online. And I was like, man, this guy is gifted. Yeah, you're doing dietitian work one-on-one in person, but that's the type of work that can be done literally remotely on a Zoom. And I was like, I bet he can make laptop money.
Yeah.
And I remember that's what crossed my mind. You made laptop money. And also you have to understand that my mentor, like who I am to you, there's a dude named that we've talked about this before, Jim Franco. He's my mentor. He's the me, I guess, to you. And Jim Franco, he owns a technology business, dude. And he was like in technology in the 80s. Now we're talking like, for automotive parts, but he embraced the internet back in the late 90s when it was still dial-up. I embraced the internet. My first website was called totalmuscle.com. And I realized I don't need a brick and mortar anymore to sell supplements here in my town, I could sell supplements and deliver it through mail order. And then when you think about what you did previously as a dietitian, you didn't even have a product to house and ship. It was knowledge that you could deliver. So there's no shipping cost, there's no fulfillment cost, there's no production cost. The knowledge lives in your head and it's massively scalable. And that's exactly what we did. And so I was able to look around corners because I had a mentor who had already kind of conquered that part of technology. And he was like, the internet is the future. And as I saw, I could scale totalmuscle.com, sell supplements all over the country with my business. And then I started High Tech Trainer, the online coaching workouts that were to be downloaded on Palm Pilots. I was like, this guy can scale faster online than he could ever scale opening up brick and mortars. And so I knew if I could talk you out of that, Tony Stephan becomes like this rocket ship.
I love that. I love what you said too, like bad company corrupts good character. And you're 100% right. Like when I looked at the examples of success in my area, it was just guys who own gyms. And
Right.
I did reach out to them, but then I came out here. I'm like, oh shit, this is a lot different. I think people need to be really aware of when you take their advice, you get their life. I wanted the life of the guy in California, the sunshine and the success and the nice building and all the things you had. I mean, back then your platforms weren't where they are today, but you had platforms like these other guys weren't doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think people have to be aware of that. And how important is it though, to have to look ahead? And we'll probably talk about that in a little bit here, of like foresight and all that. But is that something like you just had? Was that like is it just a natural gift? Did you develop that muscle just from the years of in the trenches?
I developed it. Being a visionary, some people are born with the ability to be a long-term visionary. Can see around corners, or just, I think maybe Steve Jobs might be one of those people, right? Just like I think maybe Jocko Willink was born to be naturally a great leader. Certainly honed in those skills. But all of us still aren't born with factory installed visionary skills, factory installed leadership skills. And so for me, it was honed in. I knew that technology is going to change a lot faster than brick and mortar. Because just in the short amount of time from 1997 to 1999, when I first embraced it, I saw technology change pretty quickly in those 3 years, 97 to 99. So I was like, holy smokes, this thing can be really big. And so I knew that I have to always be looking way, way, way far ahead. I think people who are of the mindset that this is how we've always done things.
Yeah.
This is how we do things in our industry. This is how we've always done things in our industry. I think of travel agents when I think about that. They got replaced by Expedia. Right? Because they're like, well, someone needs to sit down and see a trifold, and we need to explain to them on a paper map where they're going to be, and they need to see pictures. No. You could do that on the internet. No website could ever replace what I'm going to teach these people. I've been boots on the ground in Cancun. Like, you don't understand, right? And because of that closed-mindedness. And so I've always been open-minded, but I wasn't necessarily a great visionary, but I saw that Jim Franco was always embracing the next thing in his little automotive technology space. And this is why he was always dominating his competitors. And by the way, he was in an archaic industry. He has software for auto parts stores. So like if you've got, like, let's say whatever, you've got a 1970 Chevelle, and you're like, hey, what oil filter do I need for the 1970 Chevelle? The little computer that the guy behind the counter looks up, they're using Autolog, Jim Franco's software. But he was like, well, what if I can do it where it's all connected? Like before the cloud was ever connected or created, he was talking about what if there was if someone owns 10 different auto parts stores, 10 locations, if location A doesn't have it, we should be able to tap into like a main thing and go, hey, location B has it. In fact, I bought this flannel from Tilly's. They only had a large at the location I was at. They go, would you like me to check this other location in RSM? I was like, yes. And they made my life convenient. So I paid in Chino Hills and had it picked up in RSM. Franco was doing that in the fucking late 90s, early 2000s. So I saw what a visionary he was. And I'm like, I have to look out into the future. Like where the internet is concerned, the guy who can figure out what the future is going to bring is the guy that's going to own the lion's share of the money.
And that's so valuable for everyone listening to this who's just like, hey, how it's going is how it's always going to be. Like you have to think ahead.
Yeah.
So it leads me to my next thing. So I think I was 26 because then 27. So like my year of coaching was coming to an end. And you're famous for saying most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and drastically underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And that was 100% the case for me. First year, dude, didn't make a lot of money. It was a big transition to go from like seeing clients in person to starting over online. People were like, who are you? What is this thing? We're trying to like run some ads, trying to post content. My first content wasn't good. It was filmed on like an iPad in the corner. And you were the one who were like, dude, you got to flirt with the camera. You got to smile. Cause I'm just like talking like a hostage video, like just staring at it. You know what I mean?
Like a dietitian.
Yeah. Like, well, formally trained to be very clinical and very professional, not charismatic, right? My first year is coming to an end. I don't have the money for the next year. But I knew I needed more coaching. I knew I needed more mentorship. I'm like, this can't be it. You started off, I think your prices were 10 grand for the year, which is crazy, right? Then it went to 25K. And I'm like, I remember telling my wife, Andrea, I'm like, holy shit, I don't have the money for this. She's like, do you have one call left? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I got to sell this guy on why I should like be able to keep going, but like at the same rate. And I'm a little nervous because I'm like, this is gonna be awkward and I got to pitch him on why I should be worth it. And I start trying to pitch you, and I think you like picked up on it. You're like, listen, man, let me stop you. Like, you don't have to freaking pitch me. Just pay what you paid for the last year. You're going to make it. You're going to just give me a good success story and we'll call it even. And then the next year ended up making over $1 million, became a self-made millionaire at the age 28. So 26 going to 27, I could barely afford the next year. That next year, everything popped, self-made millionaire, all that. When should an entrepreneur know when to throw in the towel versus I'm this close to making it and to keep going to like double down on it?
First of all, let me tell your audience something that you're probably too humble to share with them, but you know this to be true because you're a very competitive person. And there were some names that you would always throw out to me and you'd be like, am I doing better than them when they started coaching with you? But you were one of 5 entrepreneurs who became a millionaire under my coaching, almost zero to millionaire before the age of 30.
Yeah.
Rachel Shear was another, Vince Del Monte, Jason Capital, and then there was somebody else. But I share that with you because your competitiveness is why I was like, this guy needs to just keep going, coaching with me. So if I need even though my price has gone up to $25,000, if I need to charge you 10 grand, and by the way, this is not an offer for any of you to coach with me for 10 grand. I'm going to charge 100 grand and that's what he's paying now.
Yeah.
I saw the it factor in you. You were hungry. You had a chip on your shoulder. You had rage in your eyes in a good way, right? Like you were just, this fire was burning inside you and you're fiercely competitive. And so when you've got someone who's type A, high speed, fiercely competitive, the rest of it is just time. Like you lock on to everything I was saying. So to me, I was willing to make an investment in you for a year for 10 grand, which was nothing to me for that second year. But I knew that if you did that we would have a longer relationship together, number one. Number two, I get fulfillment out of coaching and mentoring people like I really do. Jim Franco, it's not lost on me that Jim Franco coached and mentored me. And the way I paid him was through business partnerships. Like he would become a business partner and I'd put money in his pocket that way. I put hundreds of thousands of dollars in his pocket. So while I say that he was a personal training client and he was like a free mentor, I paid him through the investments that he made in me financially. But I share that with you because you have the it factor. So someone who's a dreamer, someone who doesn't have the competitive nature, someone who doesn't have singularity of focus, they should probably throw in the towel early. Someone who thinks like it should be done in 1 year. You knew that I invested this 10 grand. I haven't made the kind of money I want to make, but it's like when you plant a tree, the roots have to take, and it takes a long time for that little sprout to come up above the dirt. And it takes even longer, a few more years for it to become an actual fruit-bearing tree. But I think you have this sense about you where you know that I'm going to be there. I just need the guidance and I can lock on and be fiercely competitive and get there. And so you have all those it factors. I don't know if they're factory installed or if you were just competitive in sports or whatever and mom and dad raised you the right way, but whatever it was, you have the it factors. And so to me, it was just now if I can coach them and tell them what to do and then what to avoid. Part of good coaching is also, Tony, don't do this. Remember, I had to talk you out of many things. Don't open the brick and mortar gyms. Right? So a good coach doesn't just say what to do. A good coach also helps eliminate ideas, opening up clarity and opportunity for you to execute in the more profitable venture.
I really appreciate you saying that. First off, it's funny, as Adam was here filming with me earlier, I'm like, dude, you're like most type A, like annoying client? He's like, oh yeah, definitely. But like in a good way, you know? I appreciate you saying that because I have watched throughout the years of being here. I think a good student, you have to learn from people's successes, but also people's failures. I've learned a lot from people who have come here, been successful, and then, for lack of a better term, shit on themselves one way or another. Right. And I would always ask him, like, dude, why did this person take off and do so well, but now are irrelevant? I've been so motivated by like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be that guy he talks about and was like, oh, he did do good, but now I'm someone else's example, not me, motherfucker.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you almost get like, more successful you become, do you have to become a little bit more paranoid?
You do. Because the people you surround yourself with, it's easy to take on vices. And it always starts as a slippery slope. It always starts, and we can justify our way into hell. It's so easy that you have to create more boundaries, more rules, rituals, and routines. The more successful you become, the more insulation you need from the outside world that can derail you. That's just the reality, because temptations exist. As people that are good at selling, we can sell ourselves really well and start justifying shit. And before you know it, we've gone down the path of being delusionally self-sabotaging.
That was one of the most important lessons you drilled into me, was who you choose to marry is the most important decision you ever make in your business. And no matter what level of success you build, the wrong partner will erode it. And you say, if you marry crazy, crazy will find its way into your business. You would think like, no, it's my sales funnel, or it's my team, or it's the industry I'm in. Why is it marriage?
Keep in mind, I've coached at this high level over 600 coaching clients now. And then when you think about all the people that I've coached through my lower level masterminds, group coaching programs, courses, et cetera, thousands of people. So I got a good cross section of entrepreneurs to kind of look into. And here's what ends up happening. It's, first of all, the number one influencing factor of your success or failure is who you marry, your spouse. The number two is your circle of influence, the people that you surround yourself on a daily basis. Not just friends, could be siblings, could be mom and dad, because at the end of the day, our subconscious mind is always recording and taking in information. And so if you're focused on working your business, meaning B gives you a game plan and you're like, all right, I'm going to go execute this game plan, marketing, lead generation, get leaders in, create processes, sales system, etc. But then you've got someone on the sideline saying, you're spending too much time at work. It feels like your job or your business is like the other woman. I don't feel like you care about me anymore. So now guilt starts setting in. Guilt on the hierarchy of vibrational frequency, regret is at the very lowest, shame is next, and then guilt. So it vibrates at a very low level. So soon you have guilt, soon you have anger, maybe you have some resentment towards a spouse because they start acting out in ways. I've got several coaching clients that had married the wrong spouse. The spouse, in an attempt to get attention, and sometimes attempting to get negative attention, will end up acting out in weird ways. They'll end up drinking, they'll end up overspending. So imagine you have a spouse that's blowing more money than you're bringing in. Grant Cardone said it best one day. He goes, there's always someone with a bigger jet and more jets than you. So you can't just out-earn someone's bad spending habits, or they could do something that ruins your reputation, or they've taken your focus away from you, because a family member, a spouse, anyone. And so those two big factors, who you marry and then the circle of influence that you surround yourself with. And the third one is the thoughts that occupy your mind, like the inner dialogue. Your inner dialogue is also a lid, or the absence of a lid, of how far you'll achieve, how high you'll go in life. And if we can curate the people who we choose as a spouse, which you can, that's a choice. You probably don't have a choice on family members, but you can maybe edit their relationship, keep distance, not talk about things, not see them as often, the ones that are more toxic to your growth. And then the thoughts that occupy your mind. What is the content that you're consuming, whether it's social media, news, reading, radio, podcasts? Is it stuff that is empowering and freeing, or is it things that are making you feel like the world is not a good, safe place? Because I'm not going to operate well if I feel the world's not a safe place and a prosperous place. I'm going to operate from a place of fear, and I'm going to produce shitty outcome.
And it's funny, you would say that to me in like my late 20s. I feel like I really understood that now in my mid 30s, as you start to see people start to get divorced. You really value them in the dark times, when shit hits the fan. Then you find out really like how much are they on board. And I can confidently say my wife has always been like, hey, keep paying for the coaching. Hey, let's keep going. Hey, remember, she would always come. I would always bring her our half days. In the beginning, she's like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm like, I just need you to hear this. So I'm not the only one hearing it. Because you've also said partners have to grow together.
Yes, the 20-point gap, right? We've talked about that,
Yeah, because if you don't, you grow apart. Have you ever told people to get divorced? Like, hey, you should get divorced?
I actually have. I've told one coaching client that you might want to consider divorce, and that was actually pretty recently. He's a very successful doctor. He saw the episode of my podcast 2 years ago that I announced that I quit drinking. So he recently told his wife, guess what? I quit drinking. How can you? How dare you? Why would you do that? Have wine. A little glass of wine every now and again. A cocktail every now and again isn't a big deal. She is literally the pessimistic, negative voice in his ear about like, well, what if we go out socially? He goes, drink all you want, honey. I'm just not going to drink. But she created so much static in his life for that one thing. And she's really acting as a crab. She sees him shooting off. She doesn't want to level up. And fear causes her to try and drag him down. And I said, you've tried and tried and tried the last 6 months. My suggestion, and I'm not a marriage counselor, would be to divorce. Whether he does that or not is up to him. I've told many guys through the project. We always tell the guys at the project, it's either going to create divorces or babies. You're either going to have project divorce or a project baby.
Oh, wow.
You're going to improve your relationship so much, you're going to fuck like rabbits and have more babies, and you're going to be happy about it. Or you're going to realize, oh my God, I'm with the wrong person. There's nothing I can do to fix it. I've tried, and I'm going to keep trying, so I'm going to leave them. But sometimes you do have to cut dead weight. It's not a politically correct thing to say, but it's a thing to do. I think one thing we do need to clear up for your audience, and I'm going to do this just as a public service announcement. I talked about the 20-point gap. So friends, what a 20-point gap is, let's say Tony has an IQ of 100, and let's say his wife has an IQ of 100, and then also EQ and AQ. We all know IQ, intelligence quotient, but EQ is emotional quotient, right? How much emotional resilience you have. And then AQ is adversity quotient. How much shit can you deal with and keep pushing through? So now let's say you're 100 across all three platforms, AQ, EQ, and IQ. So is your wife. But then you start doing tough shit. You start getting coaching. You start reading. You start doing self-development. Your IQ, EQ, and AQ begin to go up. 105, 110, 115. I found if one spouse or business partner, that once there's a 20-point gap in IQ, EQ, or AQ, you don't even recognize your partner anymore. You don't even recognize. So you have to bring your spouse on the journey, because as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, wouldn't you agree that it is one of the best personal development programs out there?
Oh, yeah.
It teaches you how much shit you can eat and keep going, how much risk you're willing to take, how productive and efficient you can be. So all those things really help you develop. And if your spouse is like, I'm not going to develop in those categories, once you guys are 20 points apart, I found you're almost like you don't even connect anymore. You don't match. And so it's imperative for that 20-point gap to never exist. Pull your spouse up with you, or your business partner, or your friend, or whoever it is you want to keep in your life. Or if you're the person who's not going up, and they are,
right?
You know, you better start climbing the 20, keep that gap closed, because if it's not, you guys are going to feel like two ships passing in the night, which is how people end up divorcing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, entrepreneurial or not, you can take a lot away from that.
Absolutely.
And it's like you said, it's grow together or grow apart. Kind of back to like the chronological order of all this. So now I'm making good money now, maybe third year coaching, whatever, $250,000 a month. And I'm hoarding money in a bank account.
Right.
And you would always say, dude, you're losing money. You're losing money. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Like every day I open up my Chase mobile app and I see, and at one time I had over $1 million just sitting in a Chase account. Not even a high yield savings, just like a basic Chase account earning 0.001%. And maybe it was a half day or a coaching call. You're like, listen, man, you got to do something about this. You have to invest this money in something. And you started revealing that like, hey, I take equity in businesses. I do cryptocurrency. I do these things. And I don't even know if crypto was like as big as it is now. You also said, I own 7 or 8 single family homes, rental properties. And you're like, I don't know if like taking equity in other businesses makes sense in like your industry. Like maybe you should consider real estate.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I heard of it. I mean, I knew of people like who invested in real estate, but again, that was the first time I knew someone who did it. That was really like the spark that now my wife and I own 258 units, everything from a 7-unit apartment to a 100-unit apartment. We're going to 1,000 units, right? Kind of built a whole new industry for me, which we'll get to in a minute. But how did you, like, where did that come from? Because obviously you can make money. If you're just good at making money, you're crap. You're cash rich, asset poor. That's why I was in that first business. I mean, we were printing money essentially. But the minute I stopped working, the minute if I got sick, I had to take time off, that business stopped. That money stopped. So how did you know to get money to work for you, and why do people need to do that?
So we'll talk about that in just a second, but a great lesson to take away is if you remember one of the conversations that we would have, you're like, I've never had this much money in my bank account, B, right? When you're making 150, 200,000 a year, and credit to you and Andrea, you guys were living well below your means. You guys were stacking money in the bank account. And I remember you saying, man, it gives us such peace of mind. I was like, dude, you have to use that money. And I remember telling you, it's not just sitting in a bank account somewhere. Like the bank uses that to invest in 100%. Crypto, in real estate, in stock markets, et cetera. They're using your money and taking, 8, 9, 10, 12% interest on it. You should be making that interest. And so I remember telling you, like, hey, you should have probably at least figure out whatever your monthly nut is, what your life expenses are on a monthly basis. And if you can have 3 to 4 months of that in the bank, everything beyond that should be invested. And for you, it ended up being real estate, as I told you about my real estate holdings and my real estate investments. And it was a bit tug and pull. And I remember the last standout was your wife, and rightfully so. I would talk to you on the coaching call, so I have greater influence on you. But this is a great example of proximity is powerful. The more you were around me, the more you saw, and I exposed my wealth creation process. I make money, but then I leverage my money by investing in other businesses. And now those businesses go and make money in apartments and homes, and they make money in crypto, and that goes up in value. But Andrea wasn't there on every single coaching call. She wasn't there in all the half days. She started coming towards the latter part of it. But I remember you saying, look, man, my wife's a school teacher, and this is the most money we've ever made, and it just gives us peace of mind. We sleep well at night. And I was like, in your 30s is not, I don't want you to sleep well at night.
Yeah.
This is the hunting season, and it still is for you. If you have 3 to 4 months of money, and for the average regular person, because this man's a savage, and so I tell my savage coaching clients 3 to 4 months. For the average person out there, if you have more than 6 months of living in the bank account, anything beyond 6 months of living, you should be investing towards something else. And by the way, the investment could be towards personal growth. So if you're like, well, I only have $5,000. Like after I did the math, I only have $5,000 left. What can I invest in? Crypto, apartments? Your $5,000 ain't going to buy you an apartment.
No.
You know what I mean? It's probably going to buy you the fucking toilet seat in one of the apartments. That's it. But what you can invest in your personal growth.
Yeah. 100%.
Because then you can break the limiting beliefs that are going to allow you to make more money. That was the first big breakthrough I think you had mentally, that I can now use my money to create wealth for myself. Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. I heard him say this many years ago on Shark Tank. He goes, I need every one of my dollar bills to go out there and fight a war and hold and bring back another POW, prisoner of war, another dollar bill. Like he looked at his money as little soldiers, and they're going to go out there and kill the enemy and bring them in, right? I was like, that's a cool way of looking at it. Like, why do I have to trade my time or services for money when I can deploy my money to go make me more money?
You said a couple of very powerful things there. That first thing was I was saving out of scarcity.
Right.
And scarcity has no place in building an empire.
No.
I was like, yes, I sleep well at night with this. And you're like, dude, I'm in my, at that time, late 40s. You're like, I'm not trying to sleep well. I'm trying to build an empire.
Yeah.
So those are two like dichotomized goals. You can't be trying to sleep well and like or retire in your 20s, 30s and build an empire, which was really, really good too. You just mentioned like your money has to be out there working for you. And that's what really, I think I learned a lot in COVID when the internet business was booming, but like your main thing, franchises were shut down. You're able to use your rental properties to keep some of that going. So it's like, how do you invest your money beyond this? And you said something else too about living expenses and not overspending. You're the person who coined the phrase, give yourself a millionaire experience, but not a millionaire lifestyle. And that's when, so I was making this money. I remember saying, hey man, I want to go buy a Lamborghini. And you said, why don't you buy the asset that will then pay for the Lamborghini? Go hire the team member. And that's where, again, people will reach out and they'll say like, hey, I've got $5,000. Should I go buy an apartment? I mean, you just nailed it. It's invest in yourself first, invest in your business, then invest in assets. So the first thing was like personal development. Then it was, you said, hey, put the money, go hire a team member, go get better content, invest in your business. When that business is maxed out, then go look at real estate or something like that. But people can spend too much money and give themselves that millionaire lifestyle. So how do you like calibrate that of like, okay, I want to give myself a reward, right? I want to give myself a nice experience. Like, where did that come from? Or could you expand that?
Craig Ballantyne. Craig and I were talking many, many years ago. This is probably circa 2010. Bro, Craig and I had a mastermind called the 100K Mastermind. Basically, we taught people that sold ebooks, info marketers, how to make 100K a month with ebooks and courses. This is like the heydays, 2010, 2011. And so we had a mastermind of like 50, 60 people. Each were paying over around $1,200 a month. So we're making good money. And that was just one of our businesses, right? And he had several other businesses, so did I. But when Craig traveled from Canada out here, I met him at both of our flights. I came from Southern California to Vegas, and he came from Vancouver, Canada to Vegas. Bro, he had a Target bag. He had his laptop in a plastic Target bag. And I was like, hey, did your backpack break? He goes, no, I don't have a backpack. I go, you don't have a backpack for your computer, for your notebook? And so he had a suitcase and a Target bag, a grocery bag. He goes, no. I was like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, why do I need one? I'm like, well, first of all, if you walk into our mastermind looking like a homeless man, like, what does that say about you? Secondly, like, this can't be comfortable traveling with a Target bag with your laptop in it and your notepad and pens and shit. And he goes, no, it's not. So I actually bought him, like I went to Amazon right on the spot and ordered something for him. And when he went home, he got it. But I was like, hey man, you got to start giving yourself some millionaire experiences. Craig is very frugal and I love that about him. But I was like, if you set a benchmark, like when I do this, achieve this, buy this rental property or have my I think one of the benchmarks I gave you, I don't remember the dollar amount, but I was like, when you have, let's just say it was $250,000 a month. If you have 3 $250,000 months in a row, go buy yourself that nice watch we were talking about. I'm not going to throw the brand out. It doesn't matter. Another thing was about a high-end car, the one before the Lamborghini, the Mercedes. One of them was about flying private, right?
Yes.
So set a goal that if I could achieve this, so if I'm making $200,000 a month right now, if I can make $250,000 a month for the next 3 months, 4 months in a row, why 3 months and not just 1 month? If you could do it for 3 months, you can probably continue to do it from there. If you do have one good month just to go buy yourself a nice watch, really didn't. You lost money, right? And so that's the mindset. It's like, I like setting up action, reward, and that conditions us, like Pavlov's dog, to constantly have this benefit based on an outcome and not based on, hey, I've got a few million sitting in the bank account, so let me just off a whim, I don't feel good, let me go buy something and make myself feel good. That's how the losers operate and lose their money.
I think something I learned too, and you taught me, there's an energy associated with making money. Growing up, I was conditioned like, man, save money, make sure this is good, right? You can't save your way to wealth, number one. And when you are making a certain dollar amount, you have to continue to feel good, think bigger, to not rest on your laurels. We always talk about that. Like, we can't rest on our laurels, right? You have to keep growing. And when you introduce me to this, you're like, dude, go sit in first class. You'll realize, wow, I have more room, nicer. They're a little bit more friendly. Your expression was, you're not hoarded on the plane like cattle in the back, right? And you're like, I know you're going to freak out a little bit that you just spent 5 times the price of a normal ticket to sit in first class. But you're like, you'll pull out your laptop and you'll start thinking of 10 ways to make that money back and then some. And that's 100% true. Same reason why we spend the winters out in Newport Beach. That was a big decision for us because it was scary to leave our people, our businesses, our family behind, our house behind, bring our freaking dogs out here. And my wife and I were just talking about this last night as it's 0 degrees in Michigan, getting dumped on by snow.
God damn.
It's nice and sunny here, right? I got my SoCal tan going right now. When you feel good, you do make more money. But like you said, there's a thin line of, you have to be cognizant and aware, because if you're just a dopamine chaser of like you said, I'm in a bad mood, so I need to go buy something. Yeah. That's the opposite of it.
There's a term coined for it, retail therapy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you make hundreds of thousands a month or millions, retail therapy can get pretty expensive.
So is it just like knowing yourself? Like, you knew me, I was type A. I was never going to put myself in a negative situation. If anything, like you said, I always had to be pushed to kind of like spend that money.
Yeah.
Versus someone who spends way too much needs to is it just like knowing yourself, or?
It's knowing my coaching clients. And so the coaching for all of you is different. So like, I always find it funny when coaching clients get together and they're like, wait, B's having you make your money that way?
Yeah.
Shit, he's having me do this. He's having me write a book and go on other people's podcasts. Well, no, for me, he's having me do my own show and do my own podcast. Well, that's because it's 2 different personalities. And I've gotten good over 15 years now at understanding the people and seeing what your superpower is. You were always, you would lean towards being conservative, which I love. I'm conservative with my money. Like, I'll make an obscene amount of money, but I'll walk around in jeans and a t-shirt and a hat, and no one could ever tell that I make an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you see the people that have the rented this and the rented that, or just like, 2 good offers away from losing all their money. Like, if their next offer and the offer after that doesn't work, they're fucked. They're fucked. They're having the big fire sale. Yeah. And I never wanted to be that guy, man, because that is what takes away my mental peace. And I never wanted to be that guy. So for you, I saw that you're overly conservative with your money. And so I had to kind of push you to give yourself a millionaire experience, but don't live the millionaire lifestyle. By the way, the millionaire lifestyle doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is it? Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
Elon Musk doesn't even have a fucking house. He flies first class because he just wants to get to the next destination. There was a picture of him on Instagram recently. He's sleeping in a sleeping bag in the hallways of, like, I don't know if it was a White House or the fucking...
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, just so he can wake up and start doing the Doge shit again and exposing where all of our fucking government dumped our money.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
There's millionaires who have a more lavish lifestyle than him, but they're so stressed out. What I want is like time freedom and sovereignty, and you can do that with acquiring a lot of money and wealth.
Like you said, energy with money, but you got to know yourself. And your experience on a millionaire lifestyle is really relevant for a lot of people. One of the last things we're wrapping up here, and this was probably, I think, one of the most painful lessons. I was 31 now, ran this mastermind for a few years,
Right.
But part of like what you said, you have to read the writing on the wall. I started seeing like, okay, there's riches in the niches, but I'm in a very small niche here. There's only 60,000 potential total customers. And remember, we would talk about like, hey, can you take your digital products and expand to nurses or doctors or trainers? I'm like, no, that, the logistics of that doesn't make sense. I'm not super passionate about that. Yeah. I started losing love for what I was doing. And I started to really question, maybe I was 29, 30. Can I do this for the next 20, 30 years? I thought I would. And it's crazy. When you start out, you're like, I remember you asked me, like, how much money do you want to make? I'm like, dude, if I made $4,000 a month, I would do fucking backflips right now. From the internet, from my laptop. Here I'm making 200 grand a month, feeling slightly depressed, slightly like, how many more of these events can I do? And you would come, I would hold them at, not the Avenue
Westin.
Yeah, the Westin, or we'd do it at the beach house,
Yep.
Rent a place. There's got to be something bigger out there. And we had the conversation multiple times, shut this down, and you're passionate about real estate. I owned a couple rental properties.
Yeah.
We're like, we don't know what that's going to look like, but should just go on and see what that looks like. I walked away from a business I was making $1.5 to $2 million per year, 85, 90% profit margins. Right? I don't say that's impressing. I want to impress upon them. It's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
Say real estate's the next thing, but like what? Like my wife and I were like, are we going to just buy a bunch of rental properties? Or are we going to just like try to like syndicate? Had no idea that would lead to a real estate brokerage, 258 rental properties on the clear path to 1,000 units. And you taught me the lobster sheds its shell. I think you said 11
times.
Yeah,
on
11,
average.
Yeah, 11 times before it reaches its final form. You said that, hey man, you have to be willing to give up this good business that you built for something much bigger. Cause I just felt pulled. I felt like it was like God, divine intervention, like just something inside of me is like, you're done, man. And people would like leave that mastermind and go be like, hey, I'll teach you what Tony's teaching, you know, blue ocean to a red ocean.
Right.
Market saturation. Competitors are coming in, which you said would happen. You're like, dude, watch out. People are going to see how much money you're making with this and come in and try to erode that business. It was dark, man. If you remember, I'd send you a couple voice shots and you're like, who the heck did like a little fentanyl girl addict?
Do you remember I told you that?
Oh, yeah.
In a voice message, I was like, someone took over Tony's phone. And then like, yeah, some bitch took over Tony's phone, hand the phone over to him. This can't be Tony.
Yeah. You're like, dude, this can't be you. Now on the other end of that, like, man, thank God. Thank God we did that. I feel like that business would have started to backslide, not intentionally, like because of like market conditions.
Yeah, it's a small market, 60,000 potential registered dietitians. Now it just ends up happening, but you end up creating competitors within your mastermind. So your coaching clients become poaching clients, right? They start poaching clients
100%.
and they go, Tony's charging $1,000, I'll charge you $800. And then one of their clients goes $600. Before you know it, there's a price erosion and now no one wins the race to the bottom. To your credit though, not only did you walk away from it and go, I'm going all in on real estate, but it wasn't like, remember, your market was people looking, registered dietitians, right? Looking to make more money online. And it wasn't the pivot. You didn't go to like, hey, now I'm going to sell supplements for registered dietitians to sell to their clients or whatever.
Yeah.
That wasn't the pivot. It was a fucking mega pivot, 180 degrees to real estate. If you remember one of the struggles during that era of depression, which was just, by the way, shedding. When you look back, don't you just realize my lobster shell was really tight. It was compressing me. That I was feeling the pressure. You were shedding your shell to get the next shell and to grow into that, which is real estate, which, by the way, you're not done. Like the Tony of your late 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond is going to be fucking ridiculous. So with that in mind, I remember the messages you would send me, and I was like, bro, just stay the course, because you're like, dude, I'm putting out real estate content for an audience on my social media platform. It's like registered dietitians. They're not only leaving, the ones that are staying aren't even commenting and engaging. What do I do? Just stay the course, Tony, just stay the course. The algorithms will do what they're supposed to do as long as you keep putting out the content. And now look at you, you've got 17,000 subscribers on YouTube, growing faster than ever, have more real estate holdings than ever, you have more access and opportunities than ever, and it's a byproduct of following the like having faith when hope wasn't a bright, shining beacon in the moment, but you had faith in yourself. And then when we have faith, hope follows. When we don't have faith, we tend to lose hope as well.
How do you do that though? I mean, it sounds easy, like have hope, have faith, right? But I'm sure you've gone through those transitions, and like you said, there will be more to come. I almost lost my shit a couple times because, right, it gets really like you see that revenue come all the way down. Now it's like 3 times bigger than that ever was. I think you said when you can't work on the business, I think this is what you said, when you can't work on the business, work on the most important business, which is the business of you. Yeah. Like double down the personal development in those dark times.
I don't know if you've heard this term, winners will always win. I love that term. And you showed me that you're a winner. And so when you're like, dude, I want to make this pivot, I was like, green light, let's do it. And here's the game plan to do it. Now, I didn't want to tell you that your revenue is going to take a shit because then you'd be like, well, I'm not sure if I want to do it then. I think I'll still stay in this industry because staying in the industry, your revenue was going to tank. You just said it. 100%. It was just a matter of time because you were producing your own competitors in a small industry. And so I knew that as you walked away, and we tried selling that business, but it was such a niche business. You can't sell a niche business like that. So you were forced to walk away, which part of it is an identity crisis.
100%.
Like you went to school, you took on college debt to become a registered dietitian. 100%. And then you became good at being a dietitian. So good that other dietitians followed you. And then you started coaching other dietitians. Like this was your identity. And now the thing that defined your identity and your financial freedom for you and your wife is now starting to lose financial traction. And your coach is telling you, yeah, pay me and then make this pivot. And no one's engaging with you. But I know that winners will always win. And once you had proven to me that you're a winner, I'm like, this guy's got so much more fight in him still. Like it's not going to be an issue. The only way you're going to lose if you quit. And so people have to prove to themselves that they're winners. This is a byproduct of when you start something, finish it. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Because if you do, you have now bestowed onto yourself that you're a winner. And when hard times come, you're like, I'm a hard fucking man or woman if you're watching this, right? But if you're like the person that always starts and stops, procrastinates, quits, pivots, never really crosses the finish line with anything that you start, when winter comes, and winter does come, as Tony Robbins says, you're going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm screwed. But winners always win.
I love that. Like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Double down personal development. And those dark times, that's what it was, man. It was like, wake up early, read something positive, go to the gym. I remember staring at my computer like, what the fuck do I do today, right? But staying the course, not giving up, like you said, really trusting that big picture plan, that big picture vision, and not giving up hope and just not quitting. I think that's a big like overlining message of all this. There were multiple times in my journey, would have been easy to give up. Same with yours.
Yeah.
I know 2020 was not fun for you.
It was not fun. We lost 218 franchise locations, right? We lost $9 million in revenue. I sold several rental properties, like fire sale on rental properties, to extract the money, liquidate that money, and use it towards my franchise to keep my franchise afloat, because I didn't want to sell it to private equity for pennies on the dollar. But that's the beauty of being leveraged and having multiple income streams and having multiple opportunities to be able to cash out if you need to. By the way, going back to during those times that you were making that pivot, look, you were putting out the best content that you could, right? It wasn't like you were putting out shitty content. You were putting out good content. Like, hey, I'm a young man, we're a young couple, and we were investing in real estate. And you're like, man, I'm putting out my best content and it's not getting engagement. I was like, great, go control what you can control. Right. Get leaner, get even more jacked.
100%.
Those are the controllables. You can't control if the algorithm is going to send your shit out to people. Right. And if people who see it are going to like it and comment and share and buy. But what you can control is, can Tony go and get wins in a different area of life? Your brain doesn't know whether the win was in money, in business, in relationship, or in health. So you started boxing again. You got leaner and more athletic, because creating wealth also makes us a little comfortable, and we end up kind of splurging on our diet. And before you know it, we get a little soft. And it's happened to me plenty of times.
100%.
And I'm like, my money went up, so did my body fat percentage. Get back to it, fat boy. Start getting to single digits again, right? Like, that's just what we have to do. Great message for your young audience. When you're not in a winning season in business, and there's going to be plenty of that, like 2020 was not a winning season for me. I decided I was going to start rucking and doing jujitsu on top of my workouts, because, well, I can't control how long the pandemic's going to last, and I can't control how many franchises I'm going to sell, because no one wants to buy a fucking gym franchise in that year. Right. But I can get leaner and stronger and learn new combatives and take on a new hobby like rucksacking. And so as I did, I stacked those wins, and it felt good. It gave me the confidence and the competency to keep pushing through during the pandemic, when it was a pretty dark season for me.
100%. That's exactly what we did a couple years later in our dark season. I think that's a perfect way to conclude this, is there's seasons. That's
Seasons of life.
But business too. You're not always in a winning season.
Yeah.
Come to find out, you learn very little in the winning seasons.
Yeah.
You learn the most about your business, yourself, your marriage, when shit gets real, when shit gets hard. What would you say to someone who's maybe watching this in that losing season? Or maybe they're where I was in that first year. They've invested, they've put things into it, but it didn't. What would you always, the Chinese bamboo?
The bamboo plant, yeah. So the Chinese bamboo plant, you plant this fucking thing, and then you have to water it, cultivate the soil, pick out the weeds. For 4 years, you see nothing. You just remember, like, you put like a set of bricks around where you planted it, so you know where to cultivate the weeds and water it. And then there's like a 60-day period within that third or fourth year that this thing grows 30 feet tall over a 60-day period. We are no different than that. And by the way, I've used Cookie as an example. My dog, Cookie, is part German Shepherd, part Mastiff. And the dog trainer that we brought in to help us manage Cookie was like, hey, she's a shepherd, so she needs to have a routine. She needs to have a purpose. She needs to shepherd your kids, protect her property. You know, every morning, got to kick the ball, and she has to go get it 10 to 12 times. She needs routine, structure, and purpose. I'm like, how come? What will happen if she doesn't? Because I'm thinking, like, maybe I could just let her run around the backyard. We got a big fucking property. She goes, well, if she doesn't have a sense of purpose and routine and structure, she's going to start digging holes in your backyard, in that rose garden you have. And I realized, as fucking humans, we're no different. We're just like that bamboo plant. You got the knowledge the first year, but it had to cultivate and grow, and you had to grow into it and develop the confidence. And so execute. Finally, it grows, right? You see outcome. Well, same thing as the dog. If we don't have routine, purpose, and structure, we start digging holes in our life. The holes show up as vices, as infidelity, pornography, alcohol, weed, vape, social media, screen sucking. And so the biggest lesson I can leave your audience is the seasons of life, the seasons of business are going to come. If you are in a winning season, the losing season is right around the corner, baby. So guess what? Buckle down. It's coming. And if you're in a losing season, winning season's around the corner. I don't know how far around the corner, but I can tell you this, that if you start something and finish it all the time, and if you just keep doing the work, even when you don't see the results, you can't help but be a winner, and winners always win.
Love that, man. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you're a very busy guy. This was not a planned thing. We were just able to come in here and do this. And one thing I will say too, of like, man, when people are watching this, like, who should I take advice from? I would say, if you take their advice, you get their life. I've used a lot of different coaches and mentors throughout the years. Some are in a totally way off different position right now. And it's like, hey, I want to learn this one thing, but man, they're like trying to marry 3 different people. Like, I wouldn't take that advice, right? The one thing my wife and I have always said about you and why we've stayed consistent with the coach, because people ask, like, you just go to the same coach over and over. You're a congruent individual. Your marriage, your businesses, your fitness. I mean, dude, you're 50. You literally look better now than when I first met you.
Thank you.
Yeah. 7-8 years ago. It's hard to find someone congruent for decades. And that's truly what you are. I think for anyone like listening to this or watching this, like who do you take advice from? Or like, why have I kept the same coach? Or what do we say? You're the pyramids of Giza, man. You're not fucking going anywhere. I think that's hard to do because there's so many people who come out now and they're hot for a minute and then they're gone. Or it's like, you know, money's important, go buy all this. And like, I have all this. And it's like, oh, actually money's not that important anymore because they owe money to the IRS or whatever, you know, or like my marriage is everything. And like, oh, we actually got divorced. I would say it's harder now in 2025 to find a mentor on the internet who's legit. But I can confidently say, man, you've been legit. There have been so many life lessons, marriage, money, business, health, fitness that you've given. And it's been valuable. So hopefully my audience could learn some of these lessons today, man. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we just wrapped up the interview. I hope it was as impactful for you as it was for me. There were some powerful lessons that we broke down in there. So, hey, if you've made it this far in the video, what I want you to do is drop a meaningful comment in the comment section. What was your biggest takeaway? What lesson was your favorite? Was this helpful? Let me know. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. Grab all the free resources, grab the free book, grab the free masterclass, grab the free due diligence checklist. As you've seen, coaching and mentorship has been a huge part of my life, but I'm here to be your coach and mentor too. So if you're looking for one-on-one help and support in growing your real estate business, acquiring your first or next multifamily property and using the BRRRR method like my wife and I do, click the link in the description for the coaching program to learn more about that. And maybe you and I can work together. Till next time, thank you so much for being here. We'll talk soon.